What does it mean to be a freeloader? The elderly woman is nothing but a leech. Tell her to scram. H. Musher, get out, you old hag. I never imagined that words of disrespect could cut so deeply, especially when they came from a child's lips. This all started a few years back when my husband passed away in his early 30s. Right up until the end, he held my hand and whispered, "Aurea, I'm sorry. Find happiness." Sadly, achieving that happiness was a struggle. Part of the challenge stemmed from living with my mother. Around the time my husband died, my father also passed away unexpectedly. My mother, who resides in a remote area where a car is a necessity but lacks a driver's license, was worried. So, despite the longer commute to work, I opted to move in with her. In hindsight, that choice was a mistake. Initially, my mother suggested, "Let's cooperate and live together." But soon, she settled in sloppily, treating the sofa like her personal nest. Despite our initial agreement, she made no effort to help with chores. Whenever I brought it up, she'd retort, "You're the worst daughter, forcing an old woman to work. You're already a disgrace for coming back home." Her words cut deep, keeping me awake that night, deeply hurt. The next morning, I mustered courage and said, "Mom, if you dislike having me here so much, I can leave." She glared at me, responding sharply, "You know I can't manage without you for shopping. Are you trying to threaten me?" "No. I just thought maybe I'm making things difficult for you." "Then just do your part and be useful," she grumbled, reluctantly eating the breakfast I prepared. I was at a loss, unsure of what she truly wanted. Her constant complaints wore down my spirit. The toll of the long commute and sole responsibility for household chores took a toll on my physical health. Each day after work, I tackled all the tasks she neglected before collapsing into bed. In a life devoid of personal enjoyment, my mother's criticisms became a daily burden. Just when I thought the monotonous days would stretch on forever, a sudden and significant event shook things up. My brother's family appeared at our doorstep unexpectedly. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" My brother, Louis, his wife, and their son rarely visited because they found the countryside dull. Confused, I looked to my sister-in-law, Alvina, who tilted her head. "Didn't Mom tell you?" Before I could respond, my mother hurried in and warmly welcomed them. She praised my brother's family for coming so well prepared. "What's happening?" I asked, trying to make sense of the situation. "We're moving in with Louis and his family now, so Aurea, you're not needed here anymore. Start packing," she declared bluntly, brushing off my shock. She ushered my brother's family inside, and they settled into the living room, lugging heavy bags with them. Almost immediately, my mom instructed me to make coffee. As I started preparing it, tears threatened to spill. It wasn't the first time I felt the sting of her unequal treatment. From childhood, she showered my brother with everything he wanted on his birthdays, while mine were marked with thoughtless gifts. When college came around, my brother received financial support, while I was denied, with my mom asserting that women didn't need higher education. Determined, I worked tirelessly, secured a scholarship, and graduated from a 4-year college, juggling part-time jobs and studies. When my husband passed away and my mom offered to move in with me, I hoped it signaled a change in her attitude towards me. Unfortunately, I soon realized I was mistaken. Finishing the coffee for everyone, I retreated to my room, unwanted and unseen by my own mother. "I need to start searching for a new place to live right away," I thought to myself as I prepared to leave the living room. Just then, I felt a sudden jolt in my back, causing me to stumble forward. Startled and lost in sadness, I turned to see Delano, my nephew, who had kicked me. "Ouch! That hurts. You can't kick people," I told him firmly. Upon hearing my voice, Alvina, his mother, surprised me by saying, "Aurea, please let it go." Delano grinned mischievously and boasted, "I took down the old lady." Alvina chuckled and replied, "Yes, you did." Confused and dismayed, I showed them my bruised knee. Isn't it basic to teach children not to kick people? I'm genuinely hurt. Why shouldn't I correct Delano? We believe in no scold parenting. We let our child explore and grow freely. Alvina interjected with clear annoyance. She then took Delano by the hand and departed, stating, "There's no point in continuing this conversation. Let's go play in the living room." I seethed with anger, but it was evident that my mother, brother, and Alvina were united against me. Engaging in a futile argument wouldn't achieve anything, so I retreated to the kitchen to compose myself. Just as I was on the verge of breaking down, I sought solace in sweets. I remembered having some cream puffs in the kitchen, but when I arrived, my brother was already opening the fridge, exclaiming, "Ah, cream puffs. Delano, would you like a cream puff?" He called out to the living room, and Delano eagerly ran over to grab one. I snapped at my brother. "Hey, that cream puff was meant for me. Why are you giving away things from someone else's house to your child?" "Oh, so that was yours? Well, the cream puff seems happier being enjoyed by a cute kid. Getting upset with a child? You're overreacting," my brother retorted casually. "I'm not upset with Delano. I'm upset with you for giving away my cream puff." My raised voice must have carried because soon both my mom and Alvina entered the kitchen. "Aurea, enough already. Stop picking fights with your brother. Don't you have better things to do? When do you plan on leaving?" My mom interjected firmly. "Leave? You just told me to leave." "I have nowhere to go today," I shot back. "Oh, poor dear. How about we let Aurea stay until she finds a new place?" Avina chimed in with false sympathy. Reluctantly, my mom agreed, saying, "Avina, you're so generous." I felt frustrated, knowing that arguing wouldn't solve anything, but I couldn't hold back my discontent. "What do you mean, support me? I contribute half of the living expenses in this house. Why am I treated like this?" I exclaimed. "You're still relying on your parents' support, right? Isn't the money from Dad's inheritance?" My brother presumed. "In reality, I cover all household expenses with my own salary," I clarified. "But my brother and his wife assume I'm living off our late father and mother, so arguing seems pointless." Delano, done with his cream puff, piped up, "What does support me mean?" With a smug smile, my brother pointed at me. "It means her. She's a loser who needs support. Tell her to leave, huh? Freeloader. Get out, old lady." I never expected the sting of a child's insult to cut so deeply. My sadness quickly boiled into rage. "I'll leave as soon as I find a new place, but I'm taking everything I brought with me." "That's all right with you, isn't it, big brother?" I retorted sharply. "Sure, go ahead," he replied, his tone mocking. My anger surged to new heights. In that moment, I vowed never to forgive them. Determined, I made plans and set a swift timeline to move out. On the day of my departure, as a final gesture of respect, I surprised my mom and brother's family with a vacation. They eagerly set off, unaware of what awaited them upon their return. I completed my move, imagining their astonished faces when they discovered my absence. Leaving behind a notebook in the living room, I departed for my new home with a renewed sense of independence. The next evening, my phone rang, and I answered to a frantic call from Alvina. "Aurea, what's going on? The house is empty." They must be in a panic. "Everything from the fridge to the washing machine is gone." I had warned my brother that I would take everything I had bought, and I followed through. When I moved in, everything was old, so I replaced it all. My mom was aware of this. I could hear Alvina shouting at my mom, "Why didn't you stop, Aurea?" My mom's feeble response came back, "I never thought she'd actually go through with it." In the background, I could hear Delano crying. They were in more chaos than I had anticipated. "Aurea claims she bought everything herself, but there's no proof." "Didn't she use Dad's inheritance for all of it?" "My father didn't leave us any inheritance. You and my brother were gone right after the funeral, so you probably didn't know. There's no way you could have sent us that much money just from your pension," Alvina argued. "Actually, that money came from me," I clarified. "What?" Alvina sounded astonished. "I paid for everything. Check the notebook in the living room." The notebook contained receipts for every item I had purchased for the household. Alvina looked through it, clearly confused. "What does this mean?" I explained, "I have more financial resources than you and my brother realize. I didn't receive any help with college tuition, which was frustrating, but I used that frustration as motivation. I worked hard during my job search and eventually secured a position at a top-tier company. Accustomed to hard work, I excelled in my role and am now the only woman among my peers on a fast track to promotion. My mom and brother never seemed interested in my work, so I never bothered to tell them," Alvina explained over the phone. Both my mom and brother appeared shaken, but I felt no obligation to prolong the conversation. "Feel free to live your life without the burden of supporting me," I calmly stated before hanging up. That night, I slept peacefully in a quiet home for the first time in a while. It was truly serene, free from being kicked or hit by my nephew, and without anyone urging me to leave. A few days of tranquility passed. Then, unexpectedly, my mom and brother's family discovered where I lived and showed up at my door. When I asked through the doorbell, What do you want? My brother pleaded. Please return the appliances or lend us money to buy new ones. We're at our limit. I had assumed my brother could manage, but it turned out he had quit his job when they moved here. When I returned home, I had no rent to pay. They thought they could live off my mom's pension, what they assumed was my dad's inheritance. When I laughed at their foolishness, my brother became furious and started yelling. Ignoring him, I calmly called the police. Hello, there's a commotion at my apartment entrance, and it's quite frightening. Could you send someone over? The police arrived within minutes, thanks to my proximity to a police station. The security in my new place was outstanding. Anticipating that my family might track me down, I had informed friends of my move and deliberately chosen an apartment close to a police station. I had resolved that if my mom and brother's family ever showed up, I'd immediately involve the police. As expected, they received a stern warning and left in a hurry. After the police intervention, I was confident they wouldn't bother me again. I blocked their phone numbers and email accounts, successfully severing all ties. I later heard updates about my mom and brother's family from local friends. My brother is now working part-time at a grocery store, 90 minutes away by car from our hometown. He's so inept that he gets yelled at daily. In that rural area, there are few job opportunities, so he clings to his job, constantly scolded by a younger manager. My nephew Delano started kindergarten but is struggling to make friends. Thanks to Alvina's lax parenting, Delano has become so spoiled that he's hitting his classmates just as he used to do to me. Word spread among the moms, and now Alvina and Delano are isolated because no one wants to associate with them. Delano's stress manifests in daily tantrums at home, causing chaos and further damaging their already old house. Furthermore, Delano seems to have developed a deep mistrust of people. He won't even leave the house and has stopped going to kindergarten. Alvina spends her days crying, repeatedly asking, "How did it come to this?" As for me, I'm thoroughly enjoying living alone. The desire for my mother's approval vanished when I cut ties, and now I'm relishing the freedom I finally gained. My life is comfortable as I balance work and independence. Living alone can be lonely at times, but I haven't met anyone I like more than my late husband. I hope that someday I'll meet someone I can love as much as him. When that time comes, I'll be ready to start a new chapter in my life.